This is important stuff
for you to know.
Welcome to the show. This is Tony.
And this is Javier.
This is the show where we talk about what we believe may be important stuff.
But in the end, it's for you to decide.
Welcome back, everybody. Javier, I want to start today on a topic that I think is very important, certainly here in the United States, and that's education. But specifically, I want to focus in on the higher level, higher education, college and university. Is it a right path for everyone? There's been a lot of talk about creating opportunities so that everyone goes on to receive higher education. I don't necessarily agree with that, especially in light of employment, unemployment, business expansion, and the growing student debt that's out there. What are your thoughts on this part of education?
Well, is that a philosophical question? Is it a moral question that you're presenting to me and to the listeners, that is everybody entitled to higher education? And we're talking specifically about the U.S. And I mean philosophically, in the sense that, are you suggesting then that not everybody should have the opportunity to get higher education, to go to college or university, because you may think that it is not economically reasonable for the country? Or why are you bringing the subject of people having a right for higher education?
Okay, good point. Entitled and a right. That's not the direction that I want to take this, because I believe it ought to be available for anyone that demonstrates the criteria to be accepted at a university and to pursue a higher education. So, philosophically, I don't believe it's an entitlement that is automatic. I believe it's something you have to earn. But it should be made available to everyone. I'm talking specifically, I'm referring to pushing everyone into higher education because it's expected of them, or a philosophical argument that maybe they will need it in the marketplace. I happen to disagree with that. Not everyone is meant for college education.
Okay, two things that I initially can comment on. Number one, you're talking about qualifications. If people are not qualified to go to college, they should not be, you said, forced or...
they shouldn't be pushed.
They should not be pushed.
Yes.
Now, who is going to decide who is qualified and who is not qualified?
I think the universities create that criteria for an acceptance level. You have to maintain an academic performance level.
That there, as you know, there's a lot of debate. There has been a lot of debate for many decades about the unfairness of some of the evaluation, the exams, the selection process in universities, that they, and I don't like to use this word, but they discriminate against certain ethnicities, because the argument is that some of those people did not have the opportunity to go to receive adequate high school or primary school education and high school, and therefore their results in the exams were not did not indicate that they were qualified to go to college. So, I mean, what is the reason why some people are not qualified? Is it because they didn't have the opportunity? Is it that they're not intelligent enough? So this is a very difficult subject, because you're putting in the hands of somebody, of an institution, whether it's the federal government, the state government, in the case of state-run universities, or private universities, for them to decide who is to go to college. My concern, Tony, is that, and I always hate when you have some artificial influence or intervention to make decisions which may impact the lives of people. For example, we have seen in the past, and maybe even today, in some countries where they have very not even dictatorial, centralized government, where they plan the education depending on the needs of that country at a certain time. They go into engineering.
So it's more of a selection process.
Yes, but they say people should go into engineering because we had to develop our industrial base, especially in times when we had the Cold War, and we know that happened in the Soviet Union. They were pushing people to go into universities to study engineering programs, okay, because they need engineers for the steel and weapons and whatever. Sometimes, and they forget then the liberal arts, the social sciences. So the problem is that once you start manipulating curricula, once you started manipulating the qualification systems so that you can admit the admissions process to universities, you have some intervention of entities outside of the education system that may be preventing some people from having the opportunity to get a high education, which will, in theory, make it easier for them to have a better life.
I think that's a fair point. I think it's a fair point, but I'm not talking about selection process. I'm talking about an education system to maintain its integrity should have a criteria basis that a person has to achieve. Now, maybe there are some concessions based on socioeconomics that affect high school and primary education for those areas that are not up to par with maybe some other socioeconomic groups. I understand those differences, but performance-based on attainment. Even if you're in a low-performing school, you can be the highest or the top 5 or 10% of that school. Maybe you don't have the same skill set as someone from a higher socioeconomic group entering a university, but the opportunity based on your academic performance still exists for you to continue on. Another part that I'd like to bring up that maybe we can discuss, I don't know if we have the same thoughts on it. When I say is college for everyone, we make an assumption that we're in a technological age, so everybody needs to go to college. That I disagree with. Technical training, I think, is necessary. People have to have a plan to go into a field. Certainly, you have people like Steve Jobs, the gentleman Zuckerberg that started Facebook, Bill Gates. They left major universities to pursue an idea that they had. Those are the exceptions, granted. But still, there are many, many people that are great mechanics. They're great landscapers. They're great plumbers. They're great hostesses. Do they need a college or university education to pursue that career, to achieve excellence? Or is it sufficient for some type of technical training where they don't amass tremendous student debt and don't finish their degree?
Well, you're mixing some issues that are very relevant. Now, you're saying if somebody is qualified to be a mechanic, this person is a great mechanic, why should he go to college? Well, maybe if he goes to college, he could be a great mechanical engineer and he could develop the new alternative source of energy or the new continuous motion machine.
I would agree with that, if he wants to.
The point is that who is to decide whether he should stay as the best car mechanic in the neighborhood or go to MIT and become, an international...
The individual, the person should decide.
But if he's not given the opportunity, he doesn't know. That's one thing that, again, I'm not talking about entitlements. I'm not talking about rights. I'm talking about opportunities. They should probably be given the opportunity and see what happens. And if they go to college and they fail as a freshman, that's it. They're gone. Okay?
Yes.
Now, there's another thing that I think it should be interesting to research is if there's any correlation between the SAT score and how well they perform at the university. Because I am afraid, or I'm probably sure, that a lot of people who went in to, who barely made it to that college,
Yes.
because they had, very low SAT scores,
Yes.
just sufficient to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Probably once they get into the academic environment, the university environment, and they see the things that those of us who have gone to universities see, that beautiful educational environment where everything is new, there's so much information. This person realizes that, wow, this is what I like, and suddenly becomes the top of the class. And we have seen that happen many times. So I don't know, I'm sure there have been studies, but this is not a research project that we have, that just because that person was given the opportunity to go to a university, and suddenly they said, this is what I want to do from now on, and they just go and study like anybody else, and they do great, just because they were given that opportunity. And thirdly, you mentioned socioeconomics, and you mentioned debt, and you mentioned the economics of universities. This is where I have a concern. We know today that, and this has been in the media for quite a few months, or maybe even more, about student debt. That when these people leave the university, they have so much debt that it's going to take them forever to pay it off. So it's an economic decision that is probably preventing some people from voluntarily applying to university, because they are scaring them that, if you don't have the money and you go into debt, you're going to be paying it forever. They say, well, if that is the case, then I don't go to the university. I will stay in what I do. Some of them unemployed, living with their parents. That is harming the U.S. economy, and it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you're telling people, don't go to college because you're going to be so much in debt that it will not be worthwhile. And this is, I think, I don't know, we have to flip somehow this narrative, this conversation, so that we don't force people to choose not to go to college because of the debt, because this could be great brains that this society, this economy needs for the future.
Yeah, I think in an ideal situation, no, not even ideal, in a practical situation, I'm sure that happens a lot. I'm sure it does. But we also, to extend it out, we push a lot of people to colleges and universities that take on a lot of debt and never finish, because maybe they weren't prepared, qualified, or found out it wasn't the path for them. So the path of a technical training, I'm not saying it doesn't require some type of training or education, but a plumber, if they choose to continue to be a plumber, they continue with technical training, and they can grow and expand, maybe become an entrepreneur and not need college. But they may choose to go on to become an engineer and develop some, but that should be the choice of the individual. I don't think society should create this entitlement of pushing the people to college. Let me quote some statistics.
I'm not convinced that the term pushing is what is happening today. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, I think society is marketing. We're hearing that you need an education or you're not going to go anywhere. You need an education.
Well, not anymore, Tony. If we look at what is happening today, you mentioned Zuckerberg, you mentioned Steve Jobs. I don't know about Bill Gates. I don't think Bill Gates finished university.
No, he went to Harvard.
So now this, again, talking about narratives, this is a new narrative. And I have seen the commencement speeches in the last few years, and this is almost the message that they're saying. You're very happy, congratulations, you went to college. That doesn't mean you're going to be wealthy or you're going to fulfill your dreams.
Right.
And they mention the people who didn't go to college. Again, it's becoming also like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Don't go to college. Now it's not because of debt. It's because it's not a guarantee that you're going to do well in life.
Right, employment.
But we have to remember, maybe in the past, now maybe it's not today, maybe it's not in the last 2 decades, this is what made this country great, among other things.
Yes.
Okay? Besides patriotism and so on, it was the education that that the U.S. citizens were getting. Okay, and that's why this country became an industrial powerhouse in a few decades.
But still, with all that opportunity, let me throw out some statistics for you. With all that opportunity, we have 320 million people in the United States. Statistics from the 2010 census, approximately 30% of our population attains a bachelor's level degree. That's the 4-year level. An advanced degree, master's, doctorate, 10% it drops down to. But here was an interesting statistic that I came across in an article that I was reading on the statistics from the census, the 2010 census. More than 52%, I seem to recall the number at 52%, went on to a college and university. Now, of that, the 30% completed, but the remainder never finished. 52% of all those that went on to get an education, how much debt did they accumulate and fall short? I think that's a high number. I think we have to better and more carefully screen and weigh academic achievement and opportunity in people that are entering colleges and universities and technical institutions. Let me throw out another one. There are a lot, many, that do not go on to college and pursue technical areas like plumbing, landscaping, IT, different types of IT, different types of financial businesses, investment businesses, and they are almost self-educated. They train, they develop. Let me throw this out to you. In 2012, the largest segment of our population, our breakdown of our population, that left high school and went on to a college or university was the Latino population, Latino Hispanic. 69% of graduating Latino Hispanics in the United States went on to colleges and universities based on the 2010 census. How that compares to what they term the counterpart, the white population, was 67%. That's a tremendous gain and advancement. Did they all finish? Are they all finishing?
Well, maybe we should mention this to Ann Coulter when she was talking about Hispanics. This is an issue that has to be addressed when we talk about the immigration law. This is a big debate. There's a big debate in Congress. There's a big debate in the country about immigration. Some people think that the Hispanics, they are coming in here with maybe. Some people think that it will deteriorate the American culture because I don't know. They have this this profile of Latinos with the big hats and taking siestas in the afternoons and being lazy people, which anybody who has traveled to Latin America knows that is not the case. Now, I am not surprised about this thing about Latinos going on to college. Remember, many of the Latinos, or most of the Latinos who come here, are running away from a socio-economic situation that is not beneficial to most of the people who want to advance.
So they're seizing an opportunity.
Right, they're seizing an opportunity, and they say, well, where is the place to go? Let's go to the U.S. So they don't come with this feeling of entitlement. I'm entitled to something. They come here to work their behinds off, to study, and maybe realize the dream that their parents could not satisfy because of the situation, the conditions in which they live in their country of origin, and they came here with a different attitude. You know, we're going to work. I'm going to prove it that we can do it. We're going to succeed in my new country, in the U.S. Whether it's illegal or legal, that's not the issue.
There was not a distinction between the two.
I'm not making the distinction because there will be a lot of people who are illegal immigrants that maybe they finesse their way into a college, a 2-year or 4-year university, and now they're professionals. And I know there probably are a lot of stories. But this is what probably has influenced that number of 69% of Latinos going into college. They came here because they had this drive to succeed and to have a better life for their families, which may not be the case in the U.S. I don't know. This is something. When you see those numbers that we have to see, and I mentioned the debate about immigration because I think that this profile, this label about the Latino not liking to work and so on, I think it's a myth. It's a myth, okay? And these numbers reflect that.
I think you're probably right. There are some myths in that, and certainly the immigration issue, and we are going to address that immigration issue in the short future.
And let me add something to that. Recent statistics that came out from the U.S. Census show that the Hispanic or Latino community, in terms of entrepreneurship, the rate of new business ownership by Hispanics is going up much higher than the average of the U.S.
Across all
ethnicities.
Okay.
It means that the Latino is developing a true entrepreneurial spirit. They want to try it out on their own, start their own companies, and this is making a huge contribution. Somewhere maybe between 1/5 or 1/4 of the U.S. Economy now is being generated by the Hispanic community. You're talking about a lot of companies that are hiring people, that are selling products, that are consuming raw materials, that have an impact on the U.S. economy, and this should be taken into account in this debate.
Well, here I have to support your argument, your point here, because in 2012, 1 out of every 5 new entrepreneurial startups was Latino. There's an economic impact that has to be considered in immigration. So, at the same time, U.S. educated, that counterpart of white that they call, I'm not sure that clear definition, I don't like that labeling, but that same counterpart dropped over that same period and fell below the startup rate of Latinos. Now, let's tie this back to the education. Is it for everyone? The young Latinos, the Caucasians, that white counterpart, African Americans, the Asians, we're the Mideasterners that are here. We're a potpourri of ethnicities in the United States. And I'm not looking at just any one segment, but overall. What message do we send to these young people about colleges and universities? Is it for everyone? I believe still that has to be a message that should be considered, because there's an option of technical training, not automatically going off and with growing debt. I think you have to look at the demands of the job market. What are they looking for in the job market? And that should be a higher priority role for what education path you pursue. Because right now, recent college graduates are one of the highest unemployment levels, somewhere around 25%. It creates a problem because their families are spending a lot or they've accumulated a lot of debt. But the opportunity should be available across ethnicities based on performance.
One of the things, and this is a subject that has so many implications that everything is involved here: economics, social issues, and so on. But let me tell you something that I think could improve or would have a big influence on this issue that you're bringing about who should go to college, to higher education. I think the career planning at the high school level, even before they go to college. If you look at graduating classes
Good point.
in the U.S., if you look at students, and I went through that recently, and all my children have all gone to college, and I don't recall ever having a conversation with them where they mentioned to me that they have been going to career planning, and they told me they did this test and so on, and maybe I'm more qualified to go into engineering or to go into social sciences or literature or whatever. I think that we should devote more time and money to make sure that once a high school kid is entering the junior year, which is when they start planning for college, that we do a very methodical and intense evaluation of their career preparedness. That probably should be a very important focus of, like I said, of time and money at the high school level to improve the chances that they would choose the right career for them.
That's a great point. Now, the only part of that I would debate, time and money, because the money is already being invested. There are counselors, educational counselors on staff at high schools across the country. We're investing the money. Maybe we need to reform the path. Maybe we need to start in 10th or 11th grade and have a more effective follow-up and true counseling, not to direct, not to select who will go and who won't, but to help students create a plan, a career path, an opportunity, and get the family involved. Well, I bet no counselor ever called you or met with you with any of your children. I put 3 through school. None ever called me.
I don't recall having a meeting.
No. So this is the point. Is it for everyone? I think this is a serious consideration. I hope the listeners out there are paying attention, because these are decisions that they need to make every day. And they're expensive decisions now. There are a lot of issues that we talked about with immigration, socioeconomics, budgeting, unemployment, a lot in this. But just to finish it up, I believe that each individual, each household, each parent needs to raise this question to the high school that their children are attending and investigate what is the path, what resources are available to help us decide what's the best choice for my student, my child. Is it a 4-year university? Is it technical? Is it entrepreneurship? Is it military? There are a lot of choices, and I think this will be a better investment of families' money or debt that they have to take on.
Okay, I want to add a final point on this. And one is a message to the listeners, and another one is a recommendation to make. Number one, parents should be involved, not from when the children are on 11th grade, maybe even before. They should get involved in the career planning of the children.
Good. The coursework, the structure.
Well, everything. But especially, having the right approach so that their children make the right decision. Because at the end, they are the ones who are going to decide. You can make your son go to engineering school. And when he's a freshman in his second semester, he decides to go and to journalism or whatever.
Yes.
So they are going to make the final decision. Yes. And you're actually going to have a minor influence on convincing them to not switch careers, programs. That is one of them. The other recommendation that I have is that why don't we help their children? Why don't we, when the kids enter high school,
help the parents, help their children?
Yes. Okay. Start talking to parents about what are the options, what are the universities. Not many people know, for example, which is the best engineering school. What is the best engineering school in the state where they live? Mm-hmm. Maybe they don't have to go to MIT or Caltech or Stanford. They can go to some university here in the state.
Yes.
Okay. Where they're going to get a very good engineering education, engineering, other sciences, whatever.
Yes.
But I think it should be a project where the parents who have an obligation to make sure that they direct their children on the right path for the future, that they also get some help from the schools. whether it's federal funds or state, I don't know, but so that they know exactly how to help their children go to the right, make the right career decision. So these are the two things that I've been thinking about as we were talking that would probably help minimize all this wasteful spending and of money and time of kids going to college and dropping out, the first or the second year, not finishing and ending up, without a degree and trying to find a job. And in times like this, it's very difficult, even if you have a degree. Now, imagine if you don't have one. Maybe you can get a job, but that is not the job that you expected to get.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And it's not because the money's not spent. We are still the largest per student investment in education throughout the world. We're not getting the results. There's a problem there. I think that's a great suggestion, getting people involved. In education, they'll tell you, we need the families involved. There are many families that don't get involved. But they will also tell you, well, we have those counseling services. People don't take advantage. And maybe that is true. But I think the education system needs to be a little more proactive to help these people. Great discussion, great topic, Javier. I learned a lot today. I hope the listeners did. Let me suggest, give us your thoughts on this. Send us an email or send us a tweet. We'd love to hear from you with your questions, your concerns, and any thought that you may have had. We'll be right back after a short break. Thanks for listening today, folks. Welcome back, everybody. Javier, this is a segment that we get a lot of feedback on or suggestions. This is important stuff.
Or is it?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to let you decide. Around the world, around the country, we have a lot of warning labels. We have a lot of signs. Let me throw a few out. All right, here, Javier, we have a good one here. This, I know, is important because used in self-defense, some people often carry, women many times I hear, have those in their purse, a can of pepper spray that's used in defense for self-defense. The warning label on the outside says, may irritate eyes. For self-defense, that sounds important.
Well, there are more than one person involved because the only reason you're going to use it, I guess, is to defend yourself. So it may burn the eyes of the other person, but what if you point it the wrong way? Like, I'm sure you have used cologne, and I think they do it on purpose. You know, that little hole. You know that it's very difficult to find the little hole in the cologne, and you normally spray it the other way.
And it spins around.
Exactly. You know my theory why they do that? Because, they double or triple the consumption of the cologne because you do it once and you spray the...
Somewhere out in space.
No, the mirror. Yeah. Oh. And then you have to turn it, point it to yourself. Why don't they put that damn hole in the label? Align with the label.
So on pepper spray.
Okay, in pepper spray, if they don't do that, you may be spraying yourself. Number one.
That doesn't sound good.
I mean, it's very difficult to point a gun at somebody backwards to you. But a pepper spray, you could do it.
Oh.
If you don't know exactly where the spray is going to come out, you could spray yourself.
So, for self-defense, if you are attacked,
make sure you know where the hole is.
Take it out, investigate where is the hole. Maybe ask your assailant. Please, one moment. Give me one moment.
I have to check. Yeah, of course. Don't attack me now.
Yeah.
Because I may hurt myself.
Yes.
So, I mean, people are considerate, okay?
Or on a windy day.
Oh, no, that's the worst one.
Avoid attacks on a windy day. Because if
you cannot avoid attacks on a windy day.
Oh, no?
No, I mean, anybody can attack you on a windy, rainy day.
Well, what do you do then, though?
Well, you have to spray not against the wind. Like if you're in Chicago, in the windy city, or you're in a storm, or in a hurricane, okay, you want to spray somebody. Do not, and that's what the label should say, do not spray against the wind. especially when you have
Oh.
25, 30, 40-mile wind.
So what do you ask the assailant then on a windy day?
Turn around.
Turn around.
Don't
Switch
not,
excuse me. Change
don't,
places.
yeah, you,
Ah,
because you're going to get this spray in your eye. So you have
okay.
to tell him, turn around,
Good. And that's all part of self-defense.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's martial arts.
Good one. So that is important stuff.
Uh-huh.
Good.
That one
Good.
is.
Okay, Javier. Wow, this one here, I think this is probably pretty important and serious. On the side of a aircraft, commercial aircraft,
Mhm.
the warning label says, printed on the side of the aircraft door, do not open during flight. That really is important to know.
Wow. So you should know that. I mean, not to open the door.
I think it's dangerous because of the cabin pressure if you open the door. Now, this is on the outside
Right.
of
I
the
mean,
aircraft.
yeah, but I'm trying to think. Why would they put it outside? Unless the guy at the shop, when at the factory made a mistake and put it on the outside. Okay, that could be an error. Now, it could not be an error. Think about this.
Okay.
It could really be a warning. After that movie about the president of the U.S., remember that they hijacked the plane and a guy jumped from another plane with a parachute,
Yeah, oh, yes.
and he kind of glided
Yes.
into the door of the Air Force One in the movie, and he
yes.
opened the door. So what they're trying to prevent is from people trying to get on a plane. Like, for example, if you jump with a parachute or with those flight suits that they're using now, or the guy from Sweden, I guess, that jumped from space, remember?
He parachuted from space.
Red Bull guy,
21 miles or
exactly.
something down.
I mean, if the guy wants to cut into a plane and get into the plane without buying a ticket.
He probably passed some airplanes.
But I would put that sign, especially on the door that is close to first class. Because the guy may want to, go into first class. And so... Yeah, I think it makes sense just to let people know, do not open the door because you will not be able to get in. That only happens in movies. And cheap movies, by the way, not the good ones.
Okay, so that is important on the outside of an airplane. Well, Javier, we've come to the end of the show.
We certainly had a good time, and we hope our listeners did too.
Maybe along the way, someone even learned something.
And remember, if you think something is
important stuff,
let us know and we will talk about it.
So, until next time, hasta la vista.